Hello folks, and welcome to this video review of Iron Factory IF-EX20O Wing of Tyrant Obsidian, which is their interpretation of Novastorm. Now, since this is obviously a redeco of their Starscream mold, I'm only going to be focusing on the differences between this and the original in this review. The Starscream review should come up shortly after this one, so for anyone who happens to be watching before that goes up, I'll be covering things like the articulation, the transformation, just the mold itself in that review. Well, here we have Obsidian, which you may recognise as an homage to the 2001 eHobby exclusive Black Starscream, which featured this same colour scheme. However, this is in fact supposed to be Novastorm, and that's because it was announced with and released shortly after their Ion Storm figure. And if we take a look at the back of the box here, we can see this alternative name, Nova Wing, which I think is almost certainly a reference to the Yellow Rainmaker. I don't know if Novastorm's gender was ever specified in G1. I think the Cyberverse version is female, so I'm just going to go with that. I think we've got enough male seekers as is. Now this is a bit of a departure from the classic Novastorm colours, although I don't mind that in the slightest. In my opinion, G1 Novastorm is just a less interesting version of Sunstorm. Really just Sunstorm, but more yellow. So I think this is a good way to differentiate between the two characters a bit more, and give us something a bit more interesting to look at. Most of the figure is made from a very dark translucent grey plastic, which may not be obvious on camera, but if I take a light and shine it back here, I think you can see what I mean. I didn't actually realise this myself until I got it in hand, but it makes sense since the figure that it's based on also has a lot of translucent grey plastic. There are only a few parts that are actually black, such as the head, the lower arms, land gear, and the feet. Usually I would be dubious of this much translucent plastic in a Transformers figure, but this type is actually a little different from the standard kind that you'd find, say, in a Ghost Starscream, or even just in the cockpit here, that orange stuff. I don't know if pearlescent is the right word. It's cloudier than regular translucent plastic, and it feels like it's got a bit more give to it, so I'm not as afraid of it being brittle and breaking. Out of all the Iron Factory Seekers so far, this one has the most painted surface area of them all. Absolutely dripping in these gold highlights. It would appear that Novastorm has some quite expensive tastes. Her wings also feature this nice orange gradient. It makes it look like the edge is heating up, as if, say, you were entering the atmosphere from space. And I believe that is an original idea from Iron Factory. If I bring in Acid Storm and Iron Storm, you can kind of see that this is a theme with their Rainmakers, these painted wings. The head sculpt is just the default frowning face that most of the Seekers come with, although this is the only time the face has been a colour other than silver. This time it's gold. And the rest of the mold is identical to the original Starscream, which, as I said, we will take a more in-depth look at in its own review. In terms of accessories, there's nothing here that we haven't seen before. We've got these extra sets of hands that come on runners. They come as standard with any new Seeker, as does the flight stand for the vehicle mode. If you want to make use of the extra hands, what you need to do is unscrew this panel on the forearm, which will allow you to remove the default hand, and then you want to screw the panel back on, like so. And then if I take the default and the extra here to compare, you can see that the extra has a narrower peg, which will allow you to attach and detach it without unscrewing the forearm. Although I like to unscrew it about one turn of the screwdriver, just to make it a little easier, and then that pops in there, nice and snugly. You also get this collector's card that comes in a foil packet, made from a nice durable plastic, and because it's technically a limited edition, they tell you what number yours was on there. Time for some size comparisons. We'll start with some Iron Factory figures. Here she is with the original Starscream himself. There she is with the big boss, Megatron. There she is with her Rainmaker brethren. A really good looking trio in my opinion. There she is with Runabout, who's come to be something of a universal constant on the channel here. Here she is with some Hasbro figures. We've got Kingdom Black Arachnia and Vertebrake, So you can kind of get a sense of how she works with the mainline figures. About the same size as a core class, so works pretty well with them. And if you don't have any of those figures, maybe you're new to the Legends scene, or you just want something more general to compare it with, there she is with a Lego Stormtrooper. I've used my magic powers to transform her quickly here, but if you'd like a step-by-step guide and a more in-depth look at the transformation and the jet design, that'll be available shortly once the start screen review is up. Now you really get to appreciate the orange gradient in this mode. Now that the arm's out of the way, it's very visible on top of the wings. And the gold highlights still very visible in this mode. A really nice touch with those null rays being painted. One of my favourite parts of the jet. Another thing I appreciate is that the landing gear are unpainted, unlike some of the other Seekers, which means that you don't have to worry about paint chipping on those. If you take the flight stand adapter, you can just plug that in, like so. Like so. And you can use anything with a 5mm peg on it to simulate a flying pose. Now for some vehicle mode size comparisons. There she is with the other two Rainmakers. Runabout, Vertebrake, and the Lego Stormtrooper. And that's about it for Iron Factory Obsidian. If you're not into repaints, then this might not be for you, especially since this is an older design. But it is a lovely colour scheme, and definitely worth picking up if you're a sucker for Seekers like myself. Thanks for watching. Do stick around for more Legend scale reviews if that's up your alley, and goodbye!